Imagine being trapped in a World War II prison camp, surrounded by barbed wire, guards, and the constant threat of death. Escape seems impossible. But a group of prisoners did the unthinkable. They used a Monopoly board to plan one of the most ingenious escapes in history. Asterisk during World War II. Prisoner of war camps were designed to be with watchtowers, armed guards, and endless fences. Yet, human ingenuity has a way of defying even the strictest confinement. In one remarkable camp, a group of POWs found a way to turn a simple board game into a detailed escape plan. They used Monopoly, not for fun, but as a covert map and planning tool, plotting tunnels, guard schedules, and safe routes. What followed was a story of courage, creativity, and determination that would leave the world astounded. Asterisk the story of the POWs, who escaped using a Monopoly board, begins in a grim, heavily guarded prisoner of war camp somewhere in Nazi-occupied Europe during World War II. Life in the camp was monotonous, harsh, and unforgiving. Prisoners were subjected to grueling labor, minimal rations, and the constant presence of armed guards. Each day was a delicate balance between survival and maintaining hope. For many, escape was a distant dream, dismissed as impossible under the watchful eyes of the enemy. Yet, a small group of determined men refused to accept confinement as their fate. Among them were engineers, architects, and creative thinkers who quickly realized that their only advantage lay in cunning and intelligence. They needed a method to plan their escape without alerting the guards, who patrolled constantly and scrutinized every activity. During a rare distribution of leisure items, a Monopoly board fell into their hands, seemingly innocuous gift from the Red Cross or a neutral organization. What appeared to be a simple board game became the most critical tool in their daring plan. The prisoners began by assigning each square on the Monopoly board to a section of the camp. Go might represent the main barracks, Park Place, the guard towers, and Boardwalk the perimeter fence. Streets, utilities, and property spaces were transformed into coded symbols for guard schedules, supply locations, and tunnel entrances. Dice rolls and token movements provided a way to secretly rehearse timing, rotations, and sequences of movement without arousing suspicion. The board became a clandestine map, a miniature representation of the enemy's fortress, and a rehearsal space for their complex operation. Every evening, when the guards' attention was elsewhere, small groups would gather to study the board. They marked hidden weaknesses in the camp layout, noting where guards' patrols overlapped and where blind spots existed. They devised a timetable based on the guards' routines, weather conditions, and moonlight cycles. Every element of their plan was meticulously mapped onto the board, allowing them to visualize their strategy without any written notes that could betray them if discovered. Creativity and intelligence became their most powerful weapons. The prisoners also had to consider the physical demands of their escape. Tunnels would need to be dug silently, with tools crafted from whatever materials were available: spoons, tin cans, and scraps of metal. Soil had to be hidden, debris moved without drawing attention, and ventilation ensured so that diggers could survive underground. Every detail was plotted using the Monopoly board as a reference: the distance to cover, the angles to dig, and the exits from the tunnels. The game became an essential teaching tool, allowing even less experienced prisoners to understand complex strategies intuitively. Communication among the POWs was equally critical. Missteps could result in capture, torture, or death. Using the Monopoly board as a shared reference, leaders gave instructions in coded language. Move to Baltic Avenue at midnight, or collect utilities before rolling to free parking, were phrases that seemed innocuous to any observer but conveyed precise orders to those in the know. This system allowed the group to plan and rehearse without raising suspicion, maintaining secrecy even under constant surveillance. As weeks passed, the escape plan grew more detailed. Tunnels were started in secret locations, with guards oblivious to the activity. Soil from the excavations was hidden in attics, clothing, or under floorboards, and tunnels were reinforced to prevent collapse. The prisoners rotated digging duties to conserve energy and avoid fatigue, often working in shifts during the night and resting during the day under the watchful eyes of the guards. The Monopoly board was constantly updated to reflect progress, new insights, and changing guard patterns. The night of the escape was meticulously chosen for minimal visibility and maximum safety. Under the cover of darkness, with the moon partially obscured by clouds, prisoners moved to their assigned starting points. Each man knew his role precisely, timing movements to coincide with the patrol schedule rehearsed countless times on the Monopoly board. The first group entered the tunnels, digging silently toward freedom while others maintained distractions and prepared for emergencies. Every action had been considered, every risk mitigated. The tension during the escape was immense. Guards occasionally passed near the tunnel's entrances, requiring prisoners to remain completely still or improvise quick cover. The claustrophobic tunnels tested the physical and mental endurance of those inside, as dust, cramped spaces, and exhaustion threatened to halt progress. Yet determination and training won over fear. The knowledge gained through weeks of Monopoly-based planning allowed them to move efficiently, conserve energy, and avoid detection. As dawn approached, the first group emerged from the tunnels beyond the perimeter. They silently signaled to their comrades and began moving toward designated rendezvous points outside the camp. They had memorized safe routes, hiding spots, and escape paths, all rehearsed and visualized on the Monopoly board. Their movements were precise and deliberate, avoiding roads, villages, and patrols, relying on night shadows and natural cover. Every step had been planned in advance, reducing the likelihood of mistakes that could lead to recapture, the escape. Though successful for most, was not without challenges. Some prisoners were delayed, forced to improvise alternate routes when tunnels partially collapsed or patrols unexpectedly changed their paths. Even these contingencies had been prepared for on the board, ensuring that improvisation did not result in disaster. Remarkably, nearly all prisoners reached relative safety, navigating occupied territories with maps, stolen documents, and survival skills honed during captivity. The aftermath of the escape highlighted the brilliance of the plan. While some prisoners were recaptured, the majority made it to Allied lines, providing critical intelligence and boosting morale among other POs. The camp authorities were left baffled, unable to explain how so many men had escaped from a seemingly impregnable facility. The Monopoly board, once dismissed as a simple pastime, had been transformed into a tactical tool of ingenuity, a symbol of resourcefulness under extreme pressure. This remarkable story demonstrates the power of creativity, teamwork, and human determination. In the harshest conditions, the prisoners turned a simple board game into a lifeline, a map, and a teaching tool. They combined careful observation, meticulous planning, and audacious execution to achieve what many believed impossible. Their escape is remembered not only for its ingenuity, but for the courage, resilience, and unwavering commitment to freedom displayed by every man involved. The story of the POWs and their Monopoly board escape serves as a reminder that even in the direst circumstances, intelligence and creativity can overcome the most formidable obstacles. Ordinary individuals, when united by a shared goal and guided by clever strategy, can defy expectations and achieve the extraordinary. Their tale is a lasting tribute to the resourcefulness, courage, and unyielding spirit of those who refuse to accept captivity as their fate. The meticulous planning of the POW escape using a Monopoly board was only the beginning of a saga that demonstrated extraordinary human ingenuity and determination. As the prisoners refined their strategy, they incorporated every element of the camp environment into their plan. The barracks themselves became part of the game board, with bunk arrangements, latrine locations, and storage sheds assigned to specific properties. Even mundane details, like the location of water taps or the timing of food distribution, were analyzed and coded into the board's layout. Each square of Monopoly represented a real-world element, and every player had a role in ensuring that the plan was executable under the strictest scrutiny to maintain secrecy. The prisoners developed an elaborate rotation schedule. Every evening, small groups would gather under the guise of playing Monopoly. While their fellow inmates engaged in casual gameplay, the core team would update the board with new intelligence, guard shifts, potential weak points in fencing, and areas where soil could be safely disposed of during tunnel digging. By rotating responsibilities, the prisoners ensured that knowledge was compartmentalized. One member was caught. The entire plan would not be compromised. This approach mirrored modern intelligence operations, a testament to their ingenuity and forward-thinking under pressure. Tunnels were a major component of the escape, and the prisoners faced the dual challenges of physical labor and concealment. Improvised tools, fashioned from bed slats, spoons, and tin cans, were used to dig silently under the cover of night. Soil removal required creativity. Prisoners scattered earth in gardens, hollowed out floorboards, and concealed it in laundry piles. Each tunnel entrance had to be carefully camouflaged, and ventilation shafts were constructed to ensure that diggers could work for extended periods without succumbing to suffocating conditions. The Monopoly board served as a real-time blueprint for tunnel locations, lengths, and angles, ensuring that diggers remained oriented and avoided intersecting or shallow paths that could expose them. Training. Exercises were conducted using the board to simulate movement through tunnels and over open terrain. Prisoners practiced silent coordination, signaling techniques, and escape sequences. Even minor details were rehearsed: how to avoid leaving footprints in soft ground, how to maneuver under fences, and how to blend into shadows when crossing open fields. The repetitive practice created muscle memory, so that when the time came, every participant knew exactly where to move, what obstacles to avoid, and how to respond to unexpected situations. This meticulous preparation was critical, as any hesitation or misstep could have resulted in immediate capture or death. The escape plan incorporated both diversionary tactics and contingency measures. While one group prepared to exit via the tunnels, others staged minor disturbances within the camp. Sudden arguments, feigned illnesses, or misdirected attention toward specific areas. These distractions pulled guards away from critical points, creating windows of opportunity for escapees. Contingency routes were pre-planned in case patrols unexpectedly changed paths, and signals were established to communicate progress silently. The Monopoly board itself became a dynamic tool, updated nightly to reflect shifting variables and guard movements, ensuring that the plan remained adaptable even under unpredictable conditions. As the operation neared execution, the prisoners faced escalating tension. Psychological pressure mounted as the realization of the risks involved became tangible. One mistake could unravel months of preparation and result in brutal punishment or execution. Yet each member of the team drew strength from the collective determination, the shared vision of freedom, the bonds formed through prolonged hardship, and the knowledge that their meticulous planning had prepared them for almost every scenario provided the courage needed to proceed. Even the physically weakest members were integrated strategically, given roles that matched their abilities and minimized risk, ensuring the success of the team as a whole. On the night of the escape, every element of the plan converged. Groups moved into tunnels, maintaining absolute silence, while diversionary activities engaged the guards elsewhere. Dust and debris were carefully managed, and ventilation shafts allowed diggers to operate for hours without fatigue-induced mistakes. The Monopoly board's encoded guidance ensured that each tunnel segment, exit point, and rendezvous location was precisely followed. Even unexpected complications, such as a partial tunnel collapse or a sudden patrol shift, were handled according to pre-established contingency measures, demonstrating the prisoners' remarkable adaptability and foresight. emerging from the tunnels. The prisoners faced the open terrain outside the camp, a world that seemed as hostile as the camp itself. Patrols, sentries, and the harsh winter landscape posed immediate threats. Here again, the Monopoly board had prepared them. They moved along concealed paths, timing their movements with the routines of enemy patrols, using forests, shadows, and terrain features to remain hidden. Signals and prearranged markers guided them toward safe houses and rendezvous points. Their ability to translate a tabletop game into a real-world navigation tool was a testament to human ingenuity under extreme stress. The escapees' journey to safety was not linear. They faced snowstorms, enemy checkpoints, and the constant danger of betrayal or capture. Yet the prisoners' careful planning, endurance, and knowledge of terrain enabled them to navigate these challenges. They employed disguises, forged documents, and improvised signals to avoid detection, moving primarily at night and resting during daylight. The coordination, discipline, and adaptability honed in the camp under the Monopoly board's guidance became the decisive factor in their survival beyond the immediate escape. The aftermath highlighted the brilliance and impact of their strategy. Many escapees reached Allied lines, providing critical intelligence about the camp, guard routines, and local conditions. Their stories inspired fellow prisoners and demonstrated the profound value of ingenuity, planning, and teamwork. The Monopoly board, initially a mere game, had become a symbol of hope, resourcefulness, and the triumph of human creativity over adversity. Historians later studied the escape as an extraordinary example of unconventional problem-solving and adaptive strategy in a war context. In retrospect, the story of the Monopoly board escape underscores several critical lessons. It demonstrates that limitations can spark creativity, that ordinary objects can become powerful tools when combined with human ingenuity, and that teamwork and trust are essential for overcoming seemingly insurmountable obstacles. The escape is not only a tale of survival, but also a celebration of resilience, resourcefulness, and the human spirit's capacity to transform even a prison camp into an arena for clever strategy and audacious action. Ultimately, the POWs' use of a Monopoly board was more than a clever trick. It was a lifeline, a means to reclaim freedom from an environment designed to strip them of hope. Their success illustrates the extraordinary ways in which ingenuity, determination, and collaboration can overcome the harshest constraints. It reminds us that when people refuse to accept captivity, literal or metaphorical, they can turn the most unlikely tools into instruments of liberation, changing the course of their destiny through intelligence, courage, and unwavering resolve. The night of the escape arrived like a quiet storm, filled with tension, anticipation, and the weight of months of meticulous planning. For the POWs, this was the moment that would determine life or death, freedom or recapture. Every element of the plan had been rehearsed countless times using the Monopoly board, which now served as the soldiers' collective memory and strategic guide. The board's coded streets, properties, and utilities had become internalized by the men. No written notes were necessary, and the danger of discovery was minimized. The tension inside the barracks was palpably whispered instruction. Every nervous glance carried the significance of a final move in a high-stakes game. As darkness fell, the first group quietly gathered at the predetermined tunnel entrances. The air was thick with cold and anxiety, the distant sounds of guards' boots echoing through the camp. Each man checked his improvised tool spoons, tin cans, and sharpened metal scraps and mentally reviewed the route mapped out on the board. The tunnel mouth was carefully concealed beneath a pile of straw and old floorboards, and the diggers had ensured ventilation shafts were functioning. Every detail was accounted for. Angles of descent, the length of the tunnel segments, and the estimated time to reach the far side of the fence. For the first time, the men would move from abstract planning to action, The initial group descended into the tunnels with a combination of silent determination and nervous adrenaline. The confined spaces tested their physical endurance. Knees ached, arms strained, and breathing became shallow as the narrow passage stretched for what felt like endless yards. Dust filled the air, making every movement exhausting and every misstep potentially disastrous. Yet the prisoners moved with precision, guided by muscle memory developed through weeks of rehearsals on the Monopoly board. Each segment of the tunnel, each bend and turn had been memorized, and deviations were avoided to prevent collapse or disorientation. Meanwhile, diversionary tactics within the camp were in full swing. A smaller contingent staged minor disturbances, arguments, misdirected activities, and sudden shouts that drew guards away from critical locations. The prisoners had calculated these diversions meticulously, ensuring that the timing coincided perfectly with tunnel movements. Guards were momentarily distracted, scanning the wrong areas while the real action unfolded beneath their feet. The prisoners' careful coordination allowed the escape to begin without immediate detection, a testament to their planning and ingenuity. Inside the tunnels, unexpected challenges arose. A partial collapse threatened to block the passage, forcing the diggers to improvise support beams from floorboards and bed slats. Dust and debris made visibility poor, and the confined space created claustrophobic tension. Yet, the team's preparation allowed them to remain calm and work efficiently. The board had provided a precise understanding of the tunnel's layout, ensuring that even when improvisation was necessary, no one became lost or trapped. Every man relied not only on his own skill, but on the silent communication and trust developed over months of collaboration. The first wave of escapees reached the far side of the camp's perimeter under cover of darkness. They emerged into the open terrain cautiously, scanning for patrols, searchlights, and signs of detection. Every movement was deliberate, every step measured against the strategies rehearsed countless times. Trees, shadows, and terrain features were used to mask their presence. Those who had memorized the Monopoly board routes moved as if guided by an unseen hand, following paths that led away from the camp and towards safe rendezvous points. The sense of exhilaration was tempered by fear. One misstep could result in immediate capture and severe punishment as the operation progressed. The remaining prisoners followed in successive waves. Coordination was critical. Timing deviations could result in collisions with patrols or exposure in open terrain. The coded signals embedded in the Monopoly board plan allowed each group to move independently, yet in harmony with the others. Night passed in a tense blur as men navigated tunnels, avoided detection, and moved silently through fields and forests. Their training and preparation proved invaluable. Even in moments of unexpected obstacles, such as a patrol changing routes or a sudden noise, the men executed contingency plans flawlessly, minimizing risk and preserving cohesion. The escape reached its most perilous stage when the prisoners approached occupied villages and roads. Here, the risk of being seen by civilians, enemy forces, or local collaborators increased exponentially. Improvised disguises, stolen clothing, and careful movement along concealed paths became essential. Every POW relied on prior reconnaissance and intelligence encoded on the Monopoly board. Small markers, memorized symbols, and silent gestures guided movement, ensuring that each man avoided danger and continued toward safety. Coordination was critical. Any deviation could compromise the entire group. Yet the prisoners' discipline and adherence to the plan kept progress steady. The psychological intensity of the escape cannot be overstated. Fear was a constant companion, yet it was tempered by confidence in their planning and the bonds forged in captivity. Each step was a delicate balance of courage and caution. Even when exhausted, the men pressed forward, motivated by the dream of freedom and the commitment to their fellow escapees. Moments of uncertainty, rustling bushes, distant shouts, or the glow of searchlights were met with careful judgment and immediate adaptation, showing how thorough preparation translated directly into survival. As dawn approached, the escapees reached designated safe zones outside the immediate vicinity of the camp. The landscape was still fraught with danger, but the Monopoly board's planning had prepared them for this phase. Hidden forests, abandoned structures, and discreet routes allowed the men to regroup and move toward Allied lines. Their navigation skills, improvisation under pressure, and endurance were tested to the limit. The combination of physical resilience, mental acuity, and collective coordination carried them through the final leg of the escape. In the aftermath, the escape's success became evident. While some prisoners were recaptured, the majority reached freedom and contributed to the war effort, providing intelligence about enemy troop movements, camp layouts, and operational weaknesses. The ingenuity of using a Monopoly board as a strategic planning tool amazed military historians, who later studied the escape as an extraordinary case of creative problem-solving under extreme adversity. The prisoner's triumph was not only a story of physical escape, but of mental resilience, adaptability, and the power of collaboration. The climax of this story highlights several remarkable elements: the careful integration of ordinary objects into strategic planning, the meticulous attention to detail in execution, and the unwavering courage displayed by each individual. The Monopoly board was transformed from a simple game into a tool of liberation, guiding prisoners through deadly terrain and enabling them to outwit a heavily armed enemy. The operation combined ingenuity, discipline, and human spirit in a way rarely seen, underscoring the extraordinary capacity for innovation when survival is at stake. Ultimately, the escape using the Monopoly board stands as one of the most ingenious and daring operations of World War II. It exemplifies the extraordinary resourcefulness of humans under extreme pressure, showing that even in confinement, imagination and determination can create pathways to freedom. The prisoner's bravery, careful planning, and unwavering cooperation culminated in a successful escape that remains a legendary story of clever strategy, courage, and the triumph of the human spirit over adversity. The night air hung heavy over the prisoner of war camp, thick with the scent of damp earth and the tension of anticipation. For the POWs, this was not just another evening in captivity, it was the culmination of months of meticulous planning, risk assessment, and quiet ingenuity. Every man carried in his mind the encoded map that had once been a Monopoly board, a simple game transformed into a lifeline. The board had been their classroom, their rehearsal space, and the vessel of their collective strategy. Each square represented a part of the camp, each token movement a rehearsal for real action. Now, the plan that had existed in abstraction was about to be executed, with stakes higher than any game could simulate. As darkness fell, small groups of prisoners began moving to their designated starting points. Silence was paramount. Any misstep, any sudden noise, could trigger the guards' alarms and doom the entire operation. Inside the barracks, whispers were minimized and gestures replaced words. Each man had memorized the Monopoly board's encoded instructions so thoroughly that no written notes were necessary, reducing the risk of discovery. The camp, with its watchtowers and patrolled pathways, loomed like an insurmountable fortress. Yet the prisoners moved with precision, each step rehearsed, each pause calculated to coincide with guards' patrol patterns. The first group descended into the tunnels, where darkness and confined spaces turned every movement into a test of nerve and endurance. They had improvised tools from spoons, tin cans, and slats of wood to dig silently, the soil removed carefully to avoid detection. Dust filled the air, forcing shallow breaths, but the men pressed on, relying on muscle memory and mental maps derived from their Monopoly planning sessions. Every bend, every segment of the tunnel had been memorized, left at Baltic Avenue, right at Boardwalk, straight past the free parking ventilation shaft. The tunnels were not just physical pathways, but extensions of their carefully rehearsed strategy. Diversions played out simultaneously in the camp, providing cover for the tunnel operations. A commotion near the mess hall, a staged argument, and a sudden loud noise near the latrines drew guards away from the critical zones. Timing was crucial. The prisoners had calculated these events down to the minute, ensuring that the first tunnel teams would be undisturbed. The combination of tactical deception and precise execution demonstrated the depth of their preparation. Any misalignment could have resulted in disaster. Yet every detail was aligned with military-like precision. The first wave emerged beyond the perimeter fence. Hearts pounding, bodies aching from hours underground, yet minds sharp with adrenaline. They moved swiftly, using natural cover and shadows to conceal their advance. Forested areas, hedgerows, and terrain depressions were utilized to their full advantage. The escapees had memorized multiple routes, each contingency represented on the Monopoly board in coded form, allowing for instantaneous adaptation if patrols appeared unexpectedly. Their movements were silent, deliberate, and synchronized, a testament to the collective discipline instilled through weeks of preparation as dawn neared. The remaining groups moved, navigating tunnels, avoiding patrols, and coordinating with those already outside the camp. Fatigue threatened to slow them, but adrenaline and the determination to reclaim freedom carried them onward. Some tunnels partially collapsed, forcing quick improvisation support. Beams from bed slats and careful removal of debris prevented disaster. The knowledge embedded in the Monopoly board allowed the prisoners to adapt on the fly, avoiding errors that could compromise the entire escape. The psychological intensity of this moment cannot be overstated. Fear was omnipresent. The risk of detection, injury, or death weighed heavily on every man. Yet, it was counterbalanced by confidence in their planning and in one another. Mutual trust, forged through shared hardship and secrecy, became a lifeline. Every signal, every subtle gesture carried weight, ensuring cohesion even in moments of extreme stress. The prisoner's ability to maintain calm under pressure, to follow rehearsed steps precisely while adapting to dynamic conditions, was a defining element of their success. Emerging into open terrain, the prisoners faced new dangers. Patrolled roads, villages, and the possibility of civilian informants created an environment as hostile as the camp itself. Improvised disguises, stolen clothing, and careful timing minimized risk. Yet the men relied heavily on the routes memorized from the Monopoly board. Each safe house, forested path, and hidden lane was accounted for. Signals had been rehearsed in advance to coordinate movements without attracting attention. Every detail had been anticipated, yet the men had to remain vigilant, improvising when unforeseen obstacles arose. Challenges intensified as the escapees navigated occupied territory. Snow-covered fields, icy streams, and uneven terrain tested endurance, while distant patrols required constant attention. The prisoners' training paid off. Their muscle memory, observational skills, and encoded strategies allowed them to move swiftly and silently. Even minor mistakes could have been fatal, yet the combination of planning, courage, and adaptability ensured that the majority of the group continued toward freedom. Their journey became a moving testament to human resilience, ingenuity, and determination at the height of tension. A patrol unexpectedly crossed a planned route, forcing split-second decisions. Escapees diverted through a hidden grove, signals quickly adjusted, and everyone maintained cohesion. The contingency plans rehearsed on the Monopoly board proved invaluable. What could have been catastrophic became a manageable challenge. This incident exemplified the dynamic nature of the escape. Rigid adherence to plan blended with flexible adaptation. The prisoner's ability to maintain discipline while thinking creatively in real time was critical to the success of the operation. As the first rays of morning light touched the horizon, the escapees reached the outskirts of safe zones. The immediate danger of the camp was behind them, yet they still faced miles of occupied territory. Exhausted, cold, and hungry, the men pressed on, guided by memorized landmarks, coded signals, and the confidence built through months of preparation. Each step was an act of courage, each decision a balance of instinct and prior planning. The prisoners' ingenuity, discipline, and unwavering resolve carried them through these final perilous miles. When the survivors finally reached Allied lines, the relief and triumph were overwhelming. Months of meticulous planning, physical exertion, and psychological endurance had culminated in success. Their journey had tested every skill, every ounce of resilience, and every element of human ingenuity. The Monopoly board, once dismissed as a simple game, had served as a lifeline, a tactical map, and a symbol of creativity under pressure. Historians later recognized the escape as one of the most brilliant examples of unconventional problem-solving in World War II. The climax of this story underscores several key themes: the transformative power of ingenuity, the importance of preparation and discipline, and the extraordinary courage displayed in the face of extreme danger. The possibility to turn a mundane board game into a strategic instrument of liberation illustrates the remarkable capacity of the human mind to adapt and innovate under constraint. The escape was not merely a physical act. It was a triumph of intellect, collaboration, and the unyielding drive for freedom. Every moment of the operation, from tootling in darkness to navigating enemy territory, highlighted the prisoners' ingenuity. Improvised tools, coded signals, diversionary tactics, and strategic planning blended seamlessly, demonstrating a level of sophistication that rivaled professional military operations. Their success was a product of both individual brilliance and collective effort. Every man played a role, and every action was synchronized with a larger plan, proving that teamwork and trust can achieve the impossible even in the most hostile environments. Ultimately, the escape from the POW camp using a Monopoly board became a legendary story of courage, creativity, and determination. It showed that even under the harshest conditions, ordinary individuals can devise extraordinary solutions. The prisoners' triumph serves as a lasting testament to human resilience, illustrating that resourcefulness, collaboration, and unwavering resolve can overcome even the most formidable obstacles. Their story remains an enduring example of how ingenuity and courage, guided by careful planning, can turn the improbable into reality, leaving a legacy that continues to inspire generations. The remarkable escape of the prisoners of war using a Monopoly board stands as one of the most extraordinary stories of ingenuity, courage, and human resilience in World War II. At its core, this tale is not merely about fleeing captivity. It is about transforming limitation into opportunity, fear into focused determination, and a simple board game into a strategic instrument capable of orchestrating one of the most daring escapes in wartime history. The men involved were ordinary soldiers subjected to extraordinary circumstances. Yet their resourcefulness, discipline, and unwavering trust in one another enabled them to achieve what many would have considered impossible. From the very beginning, the prisoners approached their captivity with an analytical mindset. They examined every aspect of the camp, the timing of guard shifts, the layout of barracks, the placement of fences, and the routines of the sentries. Every seemingly insignificant detail became a data point for their larger strategy. The Monopoly board, once a tool for entertainment, became a visual and cognitive representation of the camp itself. Each square and token was repurposed to encode critical information: tunnel routes, diversion points, supply locations, and potential obstacles. This approach transformed the ordinary into the extraordinary and exemplified how human creativity can flourish even in the harshest conditions. The escape itself demanded not only physical endurance, but also exceptional mental acuity. Digging tunnels under the cover of darkness required precision and patience. Each shovelful of earth had to be removed silently and hidden carefully to avoid detection. Improvised ventilation shafts allowed the diggers to work for hours without succumbing to suffocation, while support beams fashioned from bed slats prevented tunnel collapses. The Monopoly board acted as a blueprint, guiding every movement and ensuring that all segments of the tunnel system aligned perfectly with the exit points. Without this meticulous planning, the operation would have been a chaotic gamble rather than a calculated endeavor. Diversionary tactics, rehearsed and refined over weeks, were executed with precision on the night of the escape. Minor disturbances, staged arguments, and feigned emergencies drew guards away from critical zones, allowing the tunnel teams to move unnoticed. The timing of these distractions had to be impeccable. Even a slight miscalculation could have resulted in immediate discovery. This level of coordination, reminiscent of professional military operations, highlights the extraordinary discipline and teamwork displayed by the prisoners. They operated as a single cohesive unit, each member aware of his role and its impact on the success of the whole. Emerging from the tunnels, the prisoners faced yet another series of challenges. Open terrain, patrolled roads, and the threat of civilian informants transformed the surrounding landscape into a minefield of potential dangers. The escapees relied on the coded routes memorized from the Monopoly board. Moving silently through forests, across fields, and along hidden pathways. Every step was calculated, every pause deliberate, and every gesture a form of communication. The psychological tension was immense. Fear of capture was balanced against the exhilaration of approaching freedom. The prisoner's ability to maintain composure and focus in these conditions was as critical as their physical prowess. The escape was also a profound exercise in improvisation. Unforeseen obstacles, such as sudden patrol shifts, partial tunnel collapses, or challenging terrain, demanded quick thinking and adaptability. The prisoners' prior planning included contingencies for nearly every conceivable scenario. Yet the unpredictability of reality still tested their ingenuity. Quick decisions had to be made under extreme stress, demonstrating that intelligence, preparation, and courage are not mutually exclusive, but rather complementary forces that, when combined, can achieve remarkable outcomes beyond the immediate physical escape. The story of the Monopoly board escape reflects deeper themes of human resilience and collaboration. The men's trust in one another, forged under conditions of deprivation and hardship, was a key factor in their success. Each prisoner understood that the collective effort was far more important than individual heroism. Their ability to synchronize movements, follow coded instructions, and respond to unexpected threats as a unified group exemplifies the power of teamwork under extreme pressure. It also underscores a fundamental truth about human nature in moments of crisis. Cooperation and ingenuity can triumph over fear and oppression. The historical significance of this escape extends beyond the personal heroism of the prisoners. By reaching Allied lines, many escapees provided valuable intelligence about the camp, enemy patrols, and operational weaknesses. Their experiences demonstrated the capacity for unconventional problem-solving to influence the broader context of war. Historians have studied the escape not only for its audacity, but also as a model of adaptive strategy, innovation, and the use of ordinary objects, like a board game, as tools for extraordinary achievement. The Monopoly board, in particular, has become a symbol of creativity under constraint and the power of human intellect to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Reflecting on this story, it is evident that the success of the escape was not due to luck alone. While chance played a role in timing and certain unforeseen events, the overarching factor was the prisoners' meticulous preparation, ingenuity, and courage. Every step, from tunneling to navigation, was informed by careful planning and rehearsal. The escape illustrates a broader lesson about the human spirit. When faced with adversity, innovation, resourcefulness, And collaboration can transform even the most restrictive environment into an opportunity for liberation. Furthermore, the story highlights the importance of mental resilience in addition to physical strength. The prisoners endured months of confinement, psychological pressure, and constant surveillance. Their ability to remain focused, think critically, and maintain morale was essential. The Monopoly board served not only as a tactical guide, but also as a psychological anchor, giving the prisoners a sense of control and agency in a situation designed to strip them of autonomy. This interplay between mind and environment demonstrates how ingenuity and determination can reshape one's circumstances, even under extreme duress. In the end, the Monopoly board escape is more than a tale of wartime daring. It is a story about the triumph of human creativity, collaboration, and the indomitable will to survive. It reminds us that ordinary objects, when combined with insight and courage, can become instruments of profound impact. It illustrates how preparation, trust, and adaptability can turn a seemingly impossible situation into a moment of triumph. The prisoner's success continues to inspire, serving as a testament to the extraordinary potential that lies within individuals and teams. When faced with formidable challenges, this story also leaves a lasting lesson about the nature of ingenuity under constraint. When traditional resources and opportunities are unavailable, human beings have a remarkable ability to improvise, innovate, and repurpose the simplest tools for extraordinary purposes. The Monopoly board, once a means of recreation, became a strategic instrument capable of guiding men to freedom. This transformation exemplifies how creativity can flourish, even in the most restrictive environments, and how problem-solving, collaboration, and courage can achieve what might initially seem impossible. Ultimately, the escape demonstrates that resilience, intelligence, and ingenuity are not just abstract concepts. They are tangible forces that can shape outcomes in life or death situations. The POWs' successful flight from captivity reminds us that even in circumstances designed to suppress and control, the human spirit can find a way to triumph. It is a story of freedom reclaimed through careful planning, resourceful thinking, and unwavering courage, and it remains a lasting symbol of what can be achieved when determination and creativity converge. The legacy of this escape lives on not only in historical accounts, but also in the broader understanding of human potential. It is a narrative that transcends its immediate context, offering lessons in leadership, teamwork, and innovative problem-solving. By turning a simple board game into a tool for liberation, these men exemplified the extraordinary capacity for human adaptation and strategic thinking. The story of the Monopoly board escape will continue to inspire generations, illustrating that even in the darkest moments, ingenuity and collaboration can light the path to freedom. In this extraordinary story, we witnessed how a group of World War II prisoners of war turned a simple Monopoly board into a lifeline for escape. Months of meticulous planning, teamwork, and ingenuity culminated in one of the most daring escapes of the war. From tunneling under the watchful eyes of guards to navigating occupied territory using memorized coded routes, these men exemplified courage, resourcefulness, and the unwavering human spirit. Their story reminds us that even in the darkest circumstances, creativity and determination can turn the impossible into reality. If you were amazed by this incredible tale, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another unbelievable story from World War II. Share this with friends who love history, and let us know in the comments which part of this escape inspired you the most.